Welcome to Producing from One Student to Another. My name is Mercedes, your fellow student, and in this episode, I'm going to be going over some of my favorite features in FL Studio. Like I may have mentioned before, this is my main DAW, and while I have used other DAWs, it's not to the same level that I've used this one, but they can be very similar in a lot of ways, so some of these features could also be in other DAWs that you choose. So this first feature I have is the piano randomizer. Nowadays I use a MIDI cable to put notes into my computer, but when I didn't have it, and even sometimes when I want to make something when I'm away from my keyboard, I can put in the notes by hand, and the piano randomizer is really helpful for making it sound more like I played it. When you put all the notes in with your mouse, everything is set with the same velocity, which is essentially how hard the key is pressed and how loud the note will be. With this feature, you can randomize a lot of things, but for making piano sound more natural, you'd use the velocity knob. So you can see the velocity down here, and with the randomizer, you can turn it left and right, and so all of these notes will have different velocities, which is more true to how a piano is naturally played. Now, if you don't want to make them random, you can drag and drop them like this, put them up and down. If you want to just do one, you can click it and use the scroller on your mouse to scroll up and down and change it that way. Or you can even highlight a couple of notes, do the same thing, click down, scroll up and down, and they will move together. With the length dial, you can change the length of them to make the notes less quantized. When notes are quantized, it means that they're set perfectly on the line at each bar. Humans are imperfect, so this helps. And if you don't want to do it that way, another way you can make them less quantized is by going up here and instead of snapping it to the cell or the line, you can select none, and you can just scroll in a little bit and move them all slightly to make them a little more natural that way. So this next feature I'm going to show you is the strum feature. So I love guitars, but I don't have an electric guitar that I can plug into my interface and record with. So this really helps me make a realistic sounding guitar strum. If you place the notes on the piano roll the way they would show up on a guitar, so for a C chord it would be C, E, G, C, E. And then you can highlight your chord, hit Alt S, and it already kind of starts strumming it out for you. You don't have to have super long strums, it can be shorter, but it should be strummed out a little because all the strings aren't going to be played at the exact same time. You can also change the velocity of the strings if you like by bringing it down this way. The top note will have more velocity than the bottom. This next feature is really helpful if you're sharing files and working on a project with someone else. Even if the person you're working with has the same DAW, it might not be the same version, or you might not have the same plugins. So what you do is open your channel mixer and go to this bottom dot right here. This is where you would arm the channel if you were recording into it. But for here, we're just going to right click, and it'll bring up your file folder where all your recordings are saved. And you can name it whatever you want. It'll be saved as a WAV file. You can click save, and you can share parts of the song that way. You can also do the same thing up here. If you click this little arrow and click disk recording, render to WAV file, hit start, and it'll be saved back where all your recordings are. So when you're making your edits to the project, you can send it back to your partner, and this helps keep things together so that nothing is lost or different. Just a word of advice, if you are using a plugin and it's the demo version of the plugin and you don't actually own it, when you save it down or export it as a WAV or MP3, the audio might cut out at random spots because they don't want you to benefit from the plugin if you haven't bought it yet. So this one is pretty simple. Up here you have this button is for loop recordings, and it lets me record multiple takes automatically. I can highlight sections I want to record and sing just this part as many times as I need. And when I do, it automatically mutes the previous tracks that I recorded so they won't interfere. Later on, I can listen to all of them, pick the best one, or combine the best parts of multiple takes. Without this, if I sneeze or if a fire truck goes by my house, or if I run out of air, or if I miss a note, I would have to stop it, go back to the part that I want to go to, and then record it again, and then stop, and so this just saves a lot of time. This other one is also pretty simple and saves time. Up here, if you have this highlighted, it means that you can use your computer's keyboard like a piano keyboard. It is useful for picking out sounds when you're going through a bunch to choose which one you want to pick, but not really for recording. It's pretty inconvenient for that, in my opinion. But if you have this turned off, you can use the keys to change between these tools here when you're editing. This actually saves a ton of time. Making edits in the playlist here can be really tedious and meticulous, so this really helps me. If you hover over each of them, you can see the key that it correlates to. So for the draw tool, you would hit P. For paint, it's B. For the cutting tool, it's C. So you can just go through them like this. And when you're like cutting and pasting, you need to cut some more, delete that. It's like it saves a lot of time. Then if you had to do that and then go back and select this and then do this and then do that. I'm not doing anything actual, but just to show you. So this is an easy plugin that I typically just add to my master bus. It's called Fruity Notebook 2. And I just get it here, put it in one of these slots. It doesn't change the sound or anything, it's just a place where you can write things down. Sometimes I'll write down lyrics that I'm thinking about here, but typically I like to write down the changes that I made in this session and any ideas that I might have for next time. And this is really great for if you are going to be working with someone to have this, because you can just like write your name down and put some notes down on like what you changed, like Mercedes changed the automation of the snare or something like that. These last two are on the browser panel to the left. So any changes you make will be right here under current project in the history folder. So like every little move is here. If you move something accidentally or you just liked it better last time, you can go here and you just click on the last thing you did right. It'll undo everything else below it. This is also great if you just recorded a bunch of clips that you don't want to use. There will be something that says recorded audio. You can just click over here and it'll undo all those recordings, which is great because every time you record a take, it creates a separate file that's saved on your computer. And if you undo the recording, it'll delete it off your computer, which saves a ton of space. So the recordings would be here, and instead of deleting them from the playlist, it's better to undo them, but only if you are sure that you don't want it, because you can't get it back after that. Also, if you scroll down here some, you have this little guy that says backup. And it looks like to me that it backs up your files every like 10 minutes or so. So I haven't had this problem with FL Studio crashing, but some people have had that issue. If it does crash on you, you can come back here and open up the latest that it's saved. Also, bonus feature, if you're ever looking for something, you can do Control Find, just like everything else on your computer. Well, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this helpful and that it makes your workflow a little easier. Next week's video is the last one of this series, so I hope you can come back for that too. If you did find it helpful, or if you think someone else might enjoy, you can hit the like button below and share. So thanks again, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.